What up guys, it is Justice here and welcome back to Runescape. Before heading into this video, I just want to apologize for the lack of content over the past week. I've been going through lots of issues with my different editing programs that I'm using, and that has caused a lot of backlog in terms of my video schedule and falling extremely behind. I've been working on 3 videos simultaneously, one of which is just keeps coming up with an error. I cannot get that rendered at the moment, but these next 2 which are coming out, I should be able to push these out over the next couple of days. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably would have seen quite a few salty and rage-worthy tweets over the past 5 days that I've been trying to fix this. But thank you for your patience, everyone who's been wondering where I've been, and thank you very much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, it's perking time! Yes! We are going to perk up my Nex Armour, good fight GP straight off the bat, because yeah, I now don't have much GP left, but it's time to rebuild. God Wars Dungeon 2 coming out soon, and there's some good drops coming with that. And I'm releasing this video before I release another one on God Wars Dungeon 2, because the next GWD2 video will be related to the new armor coming out, and these 2 videos are going to link. If you watch this one, you will understand the next one better. So let's get into this one. Now, the cost of something like this is massively dependent on luck, and the majority of the cost at the moment comes from going for Equilibrium 3, which is difficult to get and can cost you a bomb if you're very unlucky. And then of course you've got Biting 3, which I'm not going to cover in this video because the cost is ridiculously high, but obviously high tier PvMers out there. When I talk about Biting 2, you can just swap that out for Biting 3 later on. And therefore this video is going to focus on how much it cost me to do these perks, because RNG does play a part here. So firstly, the weapons. So this is my Virtus setup. So I've got dual seismic wands as well. So on my seismic wand, I have Precise 5, which requires 5 Armadillo components. So you want to break down some Armadillo bucklers, but you can only buy 1 buckler every 4 hours. So maybe ask some mates to help you out or use the forums. Equilibrium Aura 3 you're going to want to put on your Singularity. That requires 5 rumbling components, and it can require up to 104 invention to actually get the inspiration to unlock and discover those components, which I will move on to later in the video. But you will unlock rumbling components at level 99 invention. Essentially, the Precise perk increases your minimum damage, the Equilibrium perk increases your minimum damage at a greater rate that it reduces your max damage, so overall it is beneficial to you. So this setup is great on your weapons. So let's have a look at what I did first. Well, I had a mate to help me out with this video. His name is Julius JMJ, also has his own YouTube channel. I will leave it in the description below. First off, I bought a few items, about 20.4 million worth of items, including some Armadillo bucklers for Precise 5, which I already had, but it was the point of the video. Bought some Zamorak items in order to get Zamorak components, which I will need later on in the video. And I also bought 11 mil worth of Tectonic helms. So 3 Tectonic helms for rumbling parts, which I will use for Equilibrium later on. All other materials, you should pretty much have those already if you've been training up Invention towards 99. You'll also need some Ganodermic materials later on, and again, if you've been training Invention, potentially Ganodermic has been a training method for you where you've disassembled Ganodermic ponchos or the leggings. Before starting this as well, you're going to want to make some armor gizmos. I reckon you want to make around 10 or 11 armor gizmos, and then around 6 or 7 weapon gizmos. Okay, the first part of the video is going to show you what perks I created first, and then I'm going to show you which armor pieces I allocated those perks to. Starting off with Crackling, which you would have saw in a previous video, me attach it to my Singularity, and that's still a justified option. You can attach it to one of your weapons if you don't want to go through the cost of this option where you're fully perking out your armor setup. For Crackling 3, you want to use 4 explosive components from hand cannons and then a slot for magical parts. This will give you a high chance of Crackling 3 or Ultimatum. Your aim here is to get Crackling 3, but in this case you will notice me get Crackling 3 and also Ultimatum 2. That is absolutely fine. If you get 2 perks, why the heck not? Ultimatum 2 will not be detrimental to your setup. The next perk I created was the Absorbative perk, Absorbative 3. In order to get this, you want to use 5 fungal components, which you can get from breaking down Ganodermic armor. The next perk I went for was the Impatient 3, and this one can be very costly due to Zamorak components needing to be used, and if you get very unlucky, you will just keep getting Devoted 2, which can happen. I know a couple of mates who just have loads of armor gizmos with Devoted 2 in their bank, so unless they disassemble them. But anyway, that can be useful as well, just to whack on some armor pieces. Impatient 3 is the next one. You want to use 5 Zamorak components. The next one is Biting 2. Now, you will get the Cautious perk as well, which means you will not be able to auto-retaliate whilst you've got this gizmo on your weapon. Now, there's no way of getting Biting 2 without Cautious unless you dismantle noxious weapons in order to obtain either Biting 2 without Cautious or Biting 3. But that can cost a bomb. You're looking at 150 mil plus. And the next one you want to create, which is optional, but you'll want to use this if you base tank or bomb tank, let's say at Veorra, you can put this on your Arcane Spirit Shield, and it's called Turtling. You need 5 evasive parts to make this. I then went on to buy Vertis top and bottom, which you'll need for this setup, and it cost me 26 mil. Currently, the Seismic Wand is around 300 odd mil, and the Singularity is about 164 mil. I also decided to use, for this setup, a Tectonic Helm, and then for my gloves, I will tend to use Celestial Hand Wraps or Spellcaster gloves, depending on the situation, or even a Death Touch bracelet. It all depends on what you're fighting. As you will see, my Seismics are already augmented, so I made a couple more Augmentors, and now I'm augmented my Vertis top and bottom in order to attach the armor gizmos to them, and these gizmos obtain the perks which I've just created. Okay, so firstly I put the Crackling perk onto my Vertis top along with Absorbative 3. I then moved on to attaching the Biting 2 perk to my Vertis robe bottom along with Impatient 3. Finalizing with me putting the Turtling perk onto my Arcane Spirit Shield. And that is the setup complete, except I still don't have Equilibrium 3 yet, so I had to go and grind out a bit more invention. Before moving on to the next part of this video, I just wanted to make sure that we conceptualize what we just went through. So on my Vertis robe top, we've got Crackling 3 and Absorbative 3. On my Vertis robe legs, we've got Biting 2 and Impatient 3. On my Arcane Spirit Shield, we have Turtling 2. And then at the moment, on my Seismic Wand, I have Precise 5. So I bought a few sets of Torag, despite the nerf with Invention XP, but we won't get into that salty conversation. But yeah, you'll notice some of my tweets around that. Anyway, I decided to go and buy some Torag armor. To train up at the Eret again, because at the end of the day, it's still a very fast method. It was nerfed in terms of how you gain weapon experience now, but essentially the cannon is just used to aggro the Eret onto you anyway, so it really didn't impact the method massively, but the XP rates have been nerfed in terms of disassembling tier 70 armor. Either way, still carried on with this method. It was a method which I knew, a method which I could do fairly quickly, so set it up together, decided to grind out Invention once again for the inspiration to discover rumbling components in order to make the Equilibrium. Now this took me less levels than I thought. I thought it would take me up until about 104 Invention, and for the majority of people it would, but I was fairly smart, I'd say, with what I was discovering. I didn't discover everything that I could possibly discover when I had inspiration. I only really discovered components that I felt like I was going to use. So luckily, it took me up to 101 Invention to receive a burst of 10,900 inspiration, which is exactly what I needed to discover the rumbling components, which has a cost of 6,000 inspiration. So then I was able to make my Equilibrium 3 perk and then attach it to my Seismic Singularity. So in order to go from level 99 to 101 with the method shown on the video, this cost me approximately another 15 mil. 2 mil for 5k cannonballs, 1.5 mil for weapon siphons, or equipment siphons I mean, 7.1 mil for Torag plate bodies, 4.3 mil for Torag plate legs, so in the end, it did cost me around that amount. Plus another 3 mil for 1000 crystal flasks for quick enhancing parts for augmenting more gear in the future. Also used Devoted on my Torag armor too, great when it goes off, 100% protection against melee damage, really useful at Eret. If you look on the screen, you'll notice my coin pouch is 130 mil. That's when I'd made all the perks except for Equilibrium, but already disassembled my Tectonic Helm. So overall, it cost me around 60 million GP for me personally, as at the 19th of March. So that's what it cost me to do this setup. Now also, I already had the Crackling perk on my Singularity, so I had to make a Gizmo Dissolver. Make sure you don't make a Equipment Dissolver or Weapon Dissolver. You don't want to be dissolving your Seismic Singularity. People have done that. that. If you have, name and shame yourself in the comments section. But yeah, it's happened. Make sure you make a gizmo dissolver, and then therefore you can dissolve any perks that you don't want anymore on your augmented items or equipment. So that's what I did, and then I put the Equilibrium 3 on, which I managed to get in 2 goes, which was very lucky. You know, you can be very unlucky with this, and you constantly having to buy tectonic armor pieces or be able to get the rumbling components, and it can be a pain. So yeah, I just bought 3 tectonic helms, managed to make it in 2 goes. There are other things you can disassemble, such as dry gauze, tempest gear, which is raid gear, and things like that, but I would say the cheapest right now for me was tectonic helms. Alright guys, so we're going to get into the uses of these perks and what they actually do. So in the background, you'll see me completing a Virago trio kill, so decided to do some Virago trio because this should make that easier than what it would be without these perks. People now can duo Virago with this setup, but that takes a heck of a lot of exceptional skill to be able to do that. But in terms of trio, first 2 kills which I did were extremely rusty and yeah, pretty terrible. But then the 3rd kill, my teammate DC'd on phase 5, but eventually we did manage to get then 2 kills in a row after that, which I was very happy about because it's something which you have to do consistently and repetitively to remember everything. The last time I did this was 6 months ago when I had 3 kills, but then I haven't done it since, so literally forgot everything. So it's about relearning all of that again, trying to go through the steps, and you know, after 2 kills, you're not going to know everything. You're not even going to be there yet. So it's something which I might want to invest time into, but with God Wars Running 2 coming out, probably not going to have chance to, even though it's very enjoyable to carry out. So thank you to Julius and Code Geese for joining me on those trio kills. Other than that anyway, in terms of the perks and what they actually do, you've got the Crackling 3. Essentially, it gives you like a 3k hit every minute. So I have that on my Virtus top with Absorptive 3. Now, Absorptive is like tanking perk, but it's nice to have. We put it on the body because if you're doing hard mode Virago, for example, you'd take a tectonic body switch or just not bother with the body at all and thus still have the robe legs with 2 very good DPS perks on, such as Impatient 3, which has a 27% chance of granting you 3% extra adrenaline when using a basic. So in context, the majority of the time you'll gain 11% adren rather than 8% normally when that activates. Along with Biting 2 on the robe legs, which increases the critical hit chance. Now, with Turtling 2, which I have in my Arcane, that can be useful if you're going to bomb tank. It gives you 12-second barricades, so it's very useful when beating Virago or even tanking Beastmaster in raids, where this entire setup also works very well at. So if you want to challenge yourselves at raids, this is a good setup to go for. So overall, you know, it cost you 60 mil this setup, or it cost me 60 mil. It helps you achieve boss monster kills in smaller teams and thus larger splits, or just to increase the fun factor. Is it worth it in normal sized teams? Well, at the moment possibly not, due to the hourly cost to keep your augmented gear charged up, which hopefully Jagex will reduce again soon, as they only recently reduced it to 10%, but this is no way near significant enough to make this PvM setup a sustainable option when PvMing for lengthy durations. And with Virago, for example, you really are just counting on a lot of RNG, but if you manage that trio seismic 1, that's like 100 mil plus each. So there you go, me perking up my Nex Armour. Feel free to make your own decision right now in the comment section on whether you feel you would do this and whether you're actually going to go and do it, you know, within the next week or so. If you're worried about perking up your Nex Armour with God Wars Dungeon 2 armors coming out soon, then I will be uploading a video about God Wars Dungeon 2 armors just to maybe help you with that decision as well and what's going through my mind with the stats of that armor, and I'm going to do a comparative analysis against the Nex Armour, but we'll just see how that goes. That will be out soon. I'm probably also going to be perking up my Torva armor, but you need to do something a little bit different with that in terms of the perks, so I'll probably cover that in another video. If you want to see that, let me know in the comment section. That will be primarily for fighting against a Raxor with a melee setup with a scythe or dual Drygors. Also, after doing these Virago trio kills, I soon realized that I really do need to increase my beam when I am at Virago, because my beam is currently set at 250k, and it's so demoralizing every time you see a beam at Virago because that RNG split is so substantial. So thank you very much for watching. A thumbs up on the video would be much appreciated, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe for future videos. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.